Imagine someone throws like a really heavy medicine ball at you with all their might. Your instant biological reaction is to just brace yourself, put your hands up, and fight the impact.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's totally instinctual.
Exactly. But what if instead of bracing for that collision, you simply stepped aside and let them throw that heavy ball at a wall that isn't even there?
Wow, that's quite a visual.
Right. Well, welcome to episode 6 of our ongoing series. Today, we're doing a deep dive into what is honestly the ultimate superpower. We are digging through a stack of sources focused on psychology, communication, and mindset to really unpack emotional mastery.
Yeah, and the mission today is figuring out how to stop overthinking, how to stay calm under intense pressure, and, how to protect your peace from disrespect and toxic dynamics.
Because society trains us to believe that power means being, I don't know, the loudest or most dominant force in the room.
Right, the person shouting the loudest. But these sources point to a completely different paradigm.
They really do.
Yeah, I mean, true power is actually the ability to look at a chaotic, escalating situation and consciously decide, I see what this moment is trying to do to my nervous system, and I'm simply not participating.
I mean, that sounds incredible in theory, right? But to actually reach that level of Jedi calm, the texts suggest we can't start by trying to fix other people.
No, absolutely not.
We have to start with the internal chaos that sabotages our peace before anyone else even enters the room. And the absolute biggest culprit here is overthinking.
Oh, the silent killer of peace.
Totally. The texts describe this not as actual problem solving, but as being trapped on a hamster wheel. Like you're sweating, you're stressing, your heart rate is elevated, you're putting in this massive amount of effort, but you are traveling absolutely zero distance.
Yeah, to understand why we do this, we really have to look at the mechanism behind the behavior. Overthinking is fundamentally a disguise for fear.
A disguise? How so?
Well, specifically the fear of uncertainty. Evolutionarily, our brains are just wired to hate the unknown. To our ancient ancestors, an unpredictable rustle in the bushes meant a predator.
Like a saber-toothed tiger or something.
Exactly. But today, that unpredictable rustle is, it's a vague email from your boss saying, we need to talk later. Or, delayed text message from a partner.
Oh man, that we need to talk text, the absolute worst.
It really is. Your brain treats that social ambiguity as a literal existential threat. It spins on the hamster wheel because it falsely believes that analyzing every single catastrophic outcome is like a form of survival preparation.
That perfectly explains the midnight meeting phenomenon the sources mention. You know that feeling where your body is lying quietly in bed, but your brain is suddenly holding a mandatory boardroom meeting at 2 a.m.?
Oh, to review every single problem in your life.
Yes,
Definitely.
every single one. I always compare it to a smartphone with like a 2% battery, but 50 tabs open in the browser.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right, because every unfinished conversation, every unwritten email, every tiny worry from 5 years ago is just this open tab quietly draining your processing power.
And we try to manage that battery drain with the illusion of control. There's this brilliant analogy in the texts about a child flying a kite on a very breezy day.
Okay, a kite. Walk me through that.
So the wind represents the unpredictable nature of life. If the child gets anxious about the wind and tries to control every single gust by pulling harder and tighter on the string, the kite just spins wildly out of control and crashes into the ground.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so overthinking is us pulling too hard on the string. We think we're managing the wind, but we're actually just crashing the kite.
Okay, let me push back on that for just a second. Because if I have a massive presentation tomorrow, my brain running through 50 different ways it could go wrong feels a lot like, necessary preparation.
Right, it feels productive.
Yeah. Isn't overthinking just us trying to be thorough so we don't drop the ball and look foolish?
That is the exact paradox that keeps people stuck. I mean, it feels like preparation, but it actually paralyzes you.
Wait, really? Paralyzes you?
Yeah, because real preparation is taking action. It's writing the speech, practicing it, organizing your notes. Overthinking is just sitting on the couch worrying about whether the microphone will break.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big difference.
It doesn't protect you from the unknown. It simply amplifies your dread of it. Think about a pair of tangled earphones.
The bane of my existence.
Right. Well, you get frustrated and try to force the knot apart by pulling it tighter. The knot only gets smaller and harder to untangle. You have to start forcing it. You literally have to loosen your grip to see how the wires actually cross.
So, if pulling the string and tightening the knot don't work, how do we actually stop the physiological panic of overthinking. Because, I mean, just telling yourself stop worrying usually has the exact opposite effect.
It absolutely does, because telling yourself to calm down when your nervous system is flooded with adrenaline feels like a lie to your brain.
Your brain just rejects it.
Exactly. So the sources offer a really fascinating biological workaround. Instead of fighting the physical sensation of stress, like the racing heart, the shallow breath, you change the cognitive narrative.
Okay, what do you tell yourself instead?
You tell yourself, my body is getting ready for something important. Biologically, the arousal state of anxiety and the arousal state of excitement are nearly identical.
Wait, really? The exact same biological state?
Basically, yeah. By changing the label, you shift stress from an impending threat into a usable energy source.
That reframes the whole concept for me. It reminds me of that other powerful metaphor from the texts, the one about holding a jar of muddy water.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah, if you keep shaking the jar, which is basically what overthinking and frantic worrying does, the water stays completely cloudy. You literally cannot see through it.
Right, you're just keeping the dirt suspended in the water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The only physical way to find clarity is to put the jar down and let the dirt settle. Clarity comes from the pause, not from the obsession.
And once you put the jar down and your mind clears, you face the next hurdle. Because internal peace is wonderful, but then you have to, step outside your front door.
Ah, yes. The real world.
Right. This is where internal work collides with external reality. Your newly established peace is immediately going to be tested by external triggers, particularly disrespect, judgment, and the expectations of others.
Which brings us straight into the classic people-pleaser trap. The sources draw a direct line between low self-worth and allowing disrespect to, cross the line.
It's a very common pattern.
Yeah, when someone doesn't value their own boundaries highly, they will often tolerate unacceptable behavior. Why? Because the prospect of losing a relationship, even a deeply flawed, disrespectful one, feels much scarier to them than losing their own peace of mind.
It's basically the fear of abandonment driving the bus. And the texts use a very evocative phrase for this behavior, walking on eggshells.
Everyone knows that feeling.
Right? You're tiptoeing around, monitoring someone else's moods, trying to modulate your behavior to keep them from exploding. But the psychological cost is severe.
How so?
The sources point out that when you walk on eggshells to protect everyone else's feelings, you are ultimately just stomping all over your own heart. You're abandoning yourself to keep someone else comfortable.
Stomping on your own heart. That is... Wow, that's a powerful way to put it. Which leads to how we absorb criticism, right? We walk on eggshells to avoid criticism, but it comes anyway.
It always does.
But if we connect this to the deeper psychology of human behavior, those mean comments or sudden judgments are very rarely about you. The sources suggest it's almost always a projection of the other person's own insecurities.
It's a huge realization for a lot of people.
Yeah, they're throwing their internal negative energy at you because they lack the emotional tools to process it themselves.
And understanding that projection is essentially a shield. When you realize that their critique is actually a confession of their own internal state, you stop taking it as a fact about your identity.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, and to reinforce this, the sources suggest a somatic practice. It's a physical technique to handle verbal disrespect.
Oh, I love actionable tips. What is it?
You literally imagine their criticism as physical dust settling on your shoulder, and you use your hand to physically brush it off.
It sounds so simple, but physically brushing your shoulder sends a real signal to your brain. You're actively saying, this is not my truth, and it does not belong on my body.
Exactly. It's a physical rejection of their projection.
But what about when we feel forced to defend ourselves? The sources highlight over-explaining as a major trap here. We often feel this desperate, frantic need to explain our choices or justify our boundaries.
Yeah, and over-explaining is actually a covert form of control. We think we're just communicating, but what we're actually doing is trying to manipulate the other person's reaction.
Wait, trying to manipulate them? How?
Well, we want to present our decision with so much evidence that they have absolutely no choice but to approve of it.
Oh, wow. I've definitely done that.
We all have. But if you have to write a 3-paragraph text message to explain why you can't attend a dinner party, you aren't asserting a boundary. You are begging for permission to have one.
Okay, let me pause on the disrespect aspect, because this is where the theory gets pretty difficult to practice.
Fair enough. It's easier said than done.
Right. So if someone blatantly disrespects me, let's say they cut me off mid-sentence in a meeting, or make a highly passive-aggressive dig, my heart rate spikes. My blood boils.
Naturally.
If I just brush it off and don't explain myself and don't fight back, doesn't that just make me a doormat? I feel like I'm just swallowing their poison and letting them get away with it.
And that is the exact fear that keeps people locked in endless, exhausting cycles of reactivity. But there's a crucial difference between absorbing poison and simply observing it.
Okay, what's the difference?
Well, a doormat absorbs the dirt. You are not a sponge meant to soak up everyone else's dysfunction. Setting a boundary isn't about ignoring the disrespect. It's about addressing it without matching their chaotic energy.
So it's not just sitting there and taking it.
No, not at all. It's the difference between aggressiveness, which attacks the other person, and assertiveness, which protects you.
So what does that assertiveness look like in the real world, when the adrenaline is pumping?
The sources offer a very specific neutralizing phrase for these moments. You just say, "I felt disrespected when you said that."
That's it.
That's it. It centers entirely on your experience. It's calm, it's clear, and it leaves very little room for debate.
But won't they just get defensive?
Probably.
Uh.
But you aren't trying to manage their defense. You're just stating a fact about your boundary. Sometimes protecting your peace means stating your reality and then simply leaving the conversation without losing your sense of self.
Right. You don't have to win the argument to maintain your dignity.
Exactly.
Leaving the conversation makes sense for a passing interaction. But what happens when the person disrespecting you is someone you've known for 10 years, like a close friend or a family member who just consistently drains your energy?
That's the tough stuff right there.
It is, because dealing with long-term toxic relationships requires a completely different level of emotional mastery. It's profoundly exhausting to constantly try to fix a dynamic that is just fundamentally broken.
It is. And the sources use a beautifully harsh analogy for these entrenched dynamics. They call it the hidden garden.
The hidden garden. Okay, paint that picture for me.
Imagine you carefully plant a hopeful little seedling. You water it, you ensure it gets sunlight. But over time, a heavy, thick vine wraps itself tightly around the stem.
Like a weed.
Yeah, a really aggressive one. It blocks the sun. It steals the nutrients from the soil. If you want that tender plant to survive and actually grow, you cannot negotiate with the vine. You must cut away the choking element.
Pruning the garden. It leads right into this concept from the text. It is better to be alone than in bad company.
A hard truth to accept.
It is, because we have this cultural romanticization of loyalty, where we think being a good person means sticking it out no matter what.
Right, the ride or die mentality.
Exactly. But the sources completely deconstruct that. If you are doing all the giving, the compromising, and the emotional heavy lifting, and they are doing all the taking and criticizing, that isn't loyalty. That is a trauma bond. It's a trap.
And that realization introduces the necessity of outgrowing people. And we really need to reframe what outgrowing looks like.
Yeah, because we usually picture a dramatic confrontation, right? A screaming match, a slammed door.
Precisely. But growth isn't always loud. Sometimes outgrowing someone is just a quiet, intentional stepping back. You stop initiating the text messages. You stop offering yourself up as their emotional dumping ground.
Just fade out a bit.
Yeah, it's simply giving yourself the room to breathe because the soil you're currently in no longer supports the person you're trying to become.
But history carries so much weight. If he's known someone forever, holding on feels like an obligation. I mean, if my friend from college is going through a years-long negative phase and only calls to complain, it feels wrong to just step back. Doesn't shared history demand that we hold on tightly to the relationship?
Equating shared history with a lifetime obligation is a very common cognitive distortion.
The distortion.
Yeah, and the sources counter that specific feeling with the sand analogy. Imagine scooping up a handful of dry sand.
Okay, got it.
If you panic and grip it as tightly as you can to keep it from falling, the pressure instantly forces the sand to slip to the cracks of your fingers.
Right, you lose it all anyway.
Exactly. But if you relax your muscles and hold your hand completely open, the sand just rests there naturally. Trying to force a relationship to work by gripping it tightly only accelerates its destruction.
You have to open your hand.
You do. You have to internalize the idea that people are allowed to walk away from you, and crucially, you're allowed to let them.
Well, let them.
Yes. You do not have to chase them, you don't have to perform for them, and you certainly don't have to fix their perception of you.
Which brings us perfectly to the core engine driving all of these strategies. We've talked about clearing the muddy water of the mind, brushing the dust of criticism off our shoulders, and pruning the choking vines of toxic relationships.
All crucial steps.
Yeah, But every single one of these actions relies on the ultimate tool for emotional mastery discussed across our sources, the power of the pause, the power of not reacting.
And this is where the social dynamics become really fascinating. Have you ever noticed that staying completely, unshakably calm in a chaotic situation actually makes the people around you incredibly nervous?
Oh, absolutely. It totally short circuits their expectations. They literally don't know what to do with a calm response.
That's because people are conditioned for conflict. They expect anger, defensiveness, and panic. They expect you to play your assigned role in their drama.
Like reading from a script.
Exactly. Going back to your opening analogy, they throw the heavy ball at the wall, expecting a satisfying, massive crash. When you stay calm, it's the realization that the wall simply isn't there. You stepped aside.
And their own energy works against them.
Right. Their own chaotic, aggressive energy just keeps moving forward, and they lose their own balance.
The tragedy is how society fundamentally misreads this dynamic. The sources point out that our culture routinely mistakes calm for weakness. We see someone shouting, dominating a room, or firing off an aggressive email, and people think, wow, they have power.
It's the illusion of power.
It really is. We are conditioned to trust noise before we trust depth. But true discipline, real, terrifying strength, is almost always found in what you consciously choose not to do. Restraint isn't weakness. It is profound wisdom.
And the most practical application of that wisdom is the let them mindset.
Oh, I love this part. Let them.
It acts as a mental filter for your daily life. Someone didn't invite you to a social gathering. Let them. A coworker misunderstood your intentions and assumes the worst. Let them.
Someone wants to judge your life choices from afar. Let them.
Exactly. Adopting this mindset completely frees you from the exhausting, impossible, and frankly arrogant job of trying to manage other people's minds.
Let them is incredibly liberating. But the mechanics of actually doing that when your blood is boiling are tough. How do we actually execute the pause in the heat of the moment? The sources provide a biological tool for this, right? Creating the gap.
Yes, the gap. You have to force a temporal space between the external trigger and your internal response.
Temporal space, like just waiting.
Yes, because the gap is where all of your emotional power lives. Biologically, your amygdala, which is the brain's emotional alarm bell, reacts in milliseconds. It wants you to fight or flee immediately.
So it's basically hijacking you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But your prefrontal cortex, which handles logic, reasoning, and long-term consequences, is slower. It takes a few seconds to boot up.
It needs time to load.
Right. So when you use a phrase like, let me get back to you on that, or when you physically force yourself to take one deep breath, you are literally buying time. You're giving the logic center of your brain the crucial seconds it needs to catch up and grab the steering wheel from your emotions.
I hear the science, I really do. But I have to admit the temptation. Reacting instantly feels so good. Firing off that angry, perfectly crafted text message or dropping a snappy, sarcastic comeback in a meeting, it gives you this massive hit of dopamine.
Oh, it definitely feels good in the moment.
It feels incredibly powerful in that specific second. Why should we deny ourselves that instant satisfaction?
You deny it because of the interest rate on that instant satisfaction. The sources offer a sobering reality check regarding that dopamine hit. They say, future you is not impressed by your dramatic behavior. Future you is deeply tired from cleaning up the mess.
Oof, future you is tired. That cuts right to the bone.
It's meant to. When you react impulsively, you're essentially borrowing a cheap thrill from the present moment and leaving a massive debt of anxiety, apologies, and damaged reputation for your future self to pay off.
I never thought about it like a debt before.
Yeah, the text described restraint not as a punishment, but as love in a serious form. It is how you fiercely protect your future self before the future even arrives.
Love in a serious form. I really like that.
Think of a tree with incredibly deep, expansive roots. On a sunny, normal day, it doesn't look dramatic. It just stands there quietly. But when the massive storm finally hits, when the wind is howling and other trees are snapping, that is when you see the value of the invisible work.
The roots hold it down.
The tree survives because the real strength was built underground, in the quiet, long before the storm arrived.
That perfectly synthesizes the entire journey we've taken today. We started by looking inward, learning to let the dirt settle in the muddy jar of an overthinking mind instead of spinning on the hamster wheel of fear.
Right, managing the internal landscape first.
Exactly. Then we moved to the outside world, realizing that other people's criticism is just projection, and learning to physically brush it off rather than absorbing it like a doormat. We explored the painful but vital necessity of opening our hands, pruning the toxic vines and letting people walk away.
The hidden garden?
Yes. And finally, we uncovered the biology of the pause, buying those 6 seconds of time so that our logic can override our impulsivity.
And the ultimate takeaway from all these sources is that emotional mastery is absolutely not about suppressing your humanity.
It's not about being numb.
No, you aren't trying to become a cold, unfeeling robot. It's about feeling the full spectrum of your emotions. The anger, the sting of disrespect, the fear of the unknown, but actively choosing peace over performance. It's feeling the emotion, but refusing to let it drive the car.
You stay in the driver's seat, which leaves us with a final, lingering idea to ponder as we close this deep dive. From the time we're children, we're taught that to survive in this world, we need to build taller walls.
We need to defend ourselves.
Right. We're told we need to wear heavier armor, we need to be sharper, and we need to fight back louder. But what if the strongest, most impenetrable armor you will ever wear is simply your own total comfort with being misunderstood?
Wow, that's a profound thought.
If you no longer feel the desperate need to explain yourself to the world, if you can just step aside and let the heavy ball fly right past the missing wall, how much of your life and your energy do you instantly get back? Something to think about the next time you feel the urge to react.
Absolutely.
Until next time, take a breath, find that gap, and let